Давайте поговорим о том, что Украина – это космическая держава, Днепр – это космическая столица. И то мероприятие, которое сейчас происходит, призвано, во-первых, это реноме поддерживать, во-вторых, помочь всем, кто хочет поучаствовать в следующем шаге, потому что это такая инновационная отрасль, где стоять на месте не получается. Если мы стоим, мы отстаем. Для этого компания Archer организовала сегодняшний форум с участием одного из топовых представителей новой космической индустрии. И первым на сцену, под ваши аплодисменты, я хочу позвать операционного директора компании Archer Александра Шарко. Ваши аплодисменты.
Спасибо, Паш. Да, собственно, я отвечу на очень простой, короткий вопрос, который мне практически все задают, и заключается в том, зачем вы это делаете? Зачем Archer ввязался в космическую индустрию и так далее? Ну, собственно, безусловно, для нас это не является на данный момент рабочим проектом. У нас есть основные домены, они не соотносятся с космосом напрямую, но у любой компании, начиная с нашего размера и выше, появляется возможность и желание участвовать в неких социальных проектах. То есть компания существует не абстрактно, мы находимся не в вакууме, мы живем в вполне конкретной стране, в конкретной области, со своей историей, со своими возможностями и со своим будущим. И, грубо говоря, вот начиная с этого размера, мы хотим влиять на это будущее, мы хотим как бы делать то, что нам кажется правильным, интересным. И, в частности, учитывая все возможности, которые были у Украины в космической индустрии ранее, мы хотим, чтобы эти возможности формировали то будущее, которое Украины будет на международной космической сцене. Его либо не будет, либо мы его сами и сформируем. И для Archer это социальный проект. Когда мы провели в мае хакатон на космическую тему, собственно, стало понятно, что живой интерес у аудитории есть, что есть интерес у медиа, что достаточно людей, которые технологически могут что-то в этом ключе представить. И мы завязали разговор с Риком, который согласился очень, и мы благодарны ему очень за то, что он согласился приехать. Он проявил интерес, потому что у него тоже есть то же самое видение об Украине. Он расскажет об этом подробней. Вот. Мы рады были это услышать, и мы рады были обеспечить его приезд сюда, поэтому я надеюсь, что как бы дальше станет понятно почему. Спасибо.
То, что здесь сегодня происходит, важно не только для компании Archer, важно не только для зрителей, энтузиастов, потому что когда мы посмотрели, кто регистрируется на форум, мы поняли, что это на самом деле совершенно разные люди. От просто любопытствующих, которые с космосом и с IT-индустрией не связаны никак, до действительно специалистов и в том, и в другом. Так вот, для нашего города даже не имидж важен космической столицы, надеюсь, в будущем IT-индустрии. Важно то, что это действительно происходит, это индустрия, это инновации, это, в конце концов, деньги, которые рано или поздно в это придут, это рабочие места. Мы хотим пригласить на сцену под ваши аплодисменты человека, который очень много делает в Днепре для развития IT-индустрии, для развития просто этого города и сервисов, которые делают лучшую жизнь горожан и делают шаги навстречу тому, каким должен быть город в 21 веке. Заместитель мэра Днепра Яня Камерела, ваши аплодисменты. Да, я хочу сказать, что последний раз мы виделись недавно, когда еще один повод для гордости. Я не говорил, что в течение 1,5 месяцев беспрецедентно быстро удалось организовать и открыть центр административных услуг. Это тоже одна из инноваций. То есть нас интересуют не только космические и IT-инновации, но и инновации социальные. Поэтому я надеюсь, что все это вместе делает ту ауру, которая делает Днепр космической столицей.
Спасибо большое. Знаете, для меня так непривычно, что сегодня я заммэра Днепра, а вчера я был простой айтишник. Я до сих пор думаю, что я простой айтишник, и, скажем, этот титул просто крутая возможность воплотить в жизнь все то, о чем мы говорили, и что мы евангелизировали, так сказать. Но я постоянно верила и продолжаю верить, и теперь и продолжаю работать над этим, что надо создать экосистему. То есть, чтобы инновации развивались бы, чтобы технологии развивались бы. Мы можем, конечно, сказать, что государству и городу и так далее не надо делать ничего. Я за то, чтобы сначала перестать троллить. У нас, кстати, новость, во вторник будет такой законопроект 3719 в Раде. Опять будем стараться продвигать то, что правовые органы не должны наезжать на предприятия. То есть нонсенс, да? Закон против того, что правовые органы наезжали бы. Но это то, что мы сегодня имеем. То есть первый шаг, что государство просто не делало бы ничего, не мешало бы, не троллило бы и так далее. Но я думаю, что после этого, как государство перестанет троллить или перестанет наезжать, то все-таки есть и маленькие вещи, что государство или город могут сделать. Это, например, акселераторы, инкубаторы, менторские программы, развитие предпринимательства. Это все то, что делает такой ответственный социальный бизнес, но также, мне кажется, мог бы делать и ответственный город, создавать этот климат или экосистему. Из-за этого очень круто, что Интерпайп сделал Техфест, что сейчас спасибо Арчер поддерживает такое мероприятие. Но я хотела бы рассказать немного о цифрах. Знаете, у нас будет такой инспирационный спич через некоторое время. Но я такой старый айтишник, рассказала бы о цифрах, что мы маем. То есть, что сегодня у нас есть в Днепре. Ну, вы понимаете, что Украина, да, крутая IT-страна, то есть самое больше айтишников в Восточной Европе. Но что мы постоянно выигрываем разные призы насчет там, не знаю, объем, экспорт или так далее. Но будем честны, в разных рейтингах инноваций пока еще такая, да. Смотря, что у нас Bloomberg говорит, что мы 50-я самая инновационная страна. У нас много айтишников, у нас огромный аутсорс, у нас вроде как создаются стартапы, вроде как каждую неделю кто-то инвестирует в какой-то стартап. Но я всегда мечтаю о том, что было бы все-таки продуктовые компании, те, которые стали бы следующим скайпом, и что наш рост не основывался бы просто на том, что у нас много айтишников. Чтобы это много айтишников и также создавало бы этот рейтинг инноваций и крутые продукты. Чтобы мы могли бы сказать, что скайп из Украины или но следующий скайп трансформирует все равно что это площадь для следующих value-added products, так сказать. То есть, чтобы экспорт поддерживал бы своим объемом и то, что у нас разные рейтинги поднимались бы, становились бы круче. Что мы маем в Днепре, так сказать? У нас 9 тысяч айтишников. Это много или мало? Это данные High-Tech Ukraine, которые создавались вместе с кластерами. Наверное, такие более-менее адекватные. 9 тысяч много или мало? Если смотреть, что в Харькове 22 тысячи айтишников, вроде как мало. Смотря, что у нас здесь живет 1 миллион, там, ну, скажем, 1,4. Во Львове 15 тысяч айтишников. То есть, как будто, да, у нас IT-индустрия, у нас крутые предприятия, но по объему мало айтишников. За это у нас 14 R&D центров. То есть разные международные организации, которые создали здесь R&D центры. Верю, что здесь есть, может, не так много, но зато очень крутые, да? Что хорошая новость. Потому что, например, во Львове, в Харькове 11, во Львове даже еще, 14, окей, там Европа не совсем такое, но в Харькове меньше, например, R&D центров, чем у нас. То есть, с хорошей стороны, меньше айтишников, но они считаются как будто value-added больше. Конечно же, не говоря о университетах, колледжах, и то, что у нас 16 тысяч каждый год с наших колледжей по разным технологическим направлениям заканчивает. Но остается мало, потому что у нас 9 тысяч. Что этим всем хочу сказать? Что я думаю, что очень важно, что, во-первых, у нас потенциала, я думаю, намного больше, чем мы сегодня используем. В смысле, что, во-первых, по количеству, конечно, то, что они уезжают, наши айтишники, то, что они не остаются здесь. Мы говорим, что здесь близко к войне и так далее. В Харькове тоже близко. То есть почему-то они не остаются здесь, в городе, переезжают. Часто, кстати, мы смотрели, как миграция, часто во Львов, например. Но, конечно, да, а Львов, Украина возле Европы, да, но это пример, как город создал очень крутую экосистему, независимо от. То есть это же та же Украина, те же законы, те же, извиняюсь, СБУ и ДФС и другие. Но как город сумел создать такой крутой микроклимат, где креативный квартал, дом айтишников, каждое IT-предприятие знает, что если что-то город защитит и против наездов, и против... И мы в прямом смысле во Львове занимаются за мэра того, что если кого-то ущемляют, то защищают против всего незаконного. Это создает такой хороший микроклимат, несмотря на. Вот хотелось бы поверить, что если в Днепре тоже немножко поддержать как раз через социальные программы, через такие мероприятия, через систематичную деятельность, то можно увеличить то, что у нас не переезжают по разным причинам. Но для этого какие составляющие нужны, это такой хороший вопрос. Во-вторых, я надеялась бы, что наши R&D-центры, мозговые центры будут развиваться, но очень-очень надеюсь, что в результате всех этих мероприятий у нас будут созданы как раз те продукты, или они будут космос, или они будут другие сферы инноваций, которые будут следующими такими брендовыми. То есть, если сказать Skype, всем, уже неважно, Эстония 1 и 2 миллиона или сколько, когда-то была ICQ Израиля и так далее, которая прозвучит и скажет, что, знаете, ну, это такая крутая страна, куда можно ходить на шопинг за инновациями. То есть это не просто большая страна аутсорсинга, но и, знаете, есть такие перлинки. И я очень надеюсь, что следующая история успеха будет не по объему айтишников, не по дешевой рабочей силе, которая уже не такая дешевая, но по этому знаковому проекту и что эти наши IT-инвесторы, которые каждую неделю инвестируют куда-то, что один создаст такую историю. Я очень надеюсь, что эта история будет из Днепра. Из-за этого крайне здорово, что есть такие мероприятия, как сегодня. Если город может как-то не только просто пассивно быть в стороне, а как-то поддерживать, то мы очень стараемся через разные инициативы, то, что запускать стартапы на своей площадке. Мы прошлый год запустили там Навизор, сейчас поликлинику Печерок и так далее. Если есть идея, что город может сделать, быть как пилотная площадка, быть как этот драйвер, поддержать через свою инфраструктуру и так далее, то очень ждем идей и очень трудно самим придумывать, как мы можем быть полезны. То есть, несмотря на то, что сегодня уже я говорю со стороны города, то очень круто было бы соединить силы IT-индустрии, города, экосистемы и создать что-то такое крутое, как во Львове, и сказать, что больше уже столько не переезжают, потому что уже есть потенциал, еще больше. Я могу дальше евангелизировать, но я хотела сказать, что цифры показывают, что у нас огромный потенциал, намного больше. Мы создаем очень много айтишников каждый год, они почему-то уезжают. У нас создаются R&D-центры, но могли бы быть больше. И у нас огромный потенциал, который мог бы еще больше канализироваться. Ура!
Большое спасибо, Юника. Не спешите уходить. Мы хотели от имени компании Archer поблагодарить вас за участие в форуме, вручить подарок. И это не коррупция. Друзья, еще раз я хочу повторить для тех, кто присоединился к нам чуть позже, чем основная аудитория, есть две уникальные призовые возможности сегодня в ходе форума. Первая связана с вопросами, которые вы зададите Рику после того, как он выступит на сцене. У нас будет где-то около получаса на вопросы здесь, в режиме QA session, и у нас будет круглый стол. Те люди, которые регистрировались на круглый стол и даже писали свои вопросы, которые они собираются задать, могут их здесь не задавать. Здесь можно задавать другие вопросы. Так или иначе, среди тех вопросов, которые будут заданы и на которые Рик успеет ответить, он сам выберет победителя, а даже, скорее всего, не одного, а троих победителей. То есть 3 лучших вопроса получат приз. Заодно я хотел бы, чтобы сейчас прозвучали аплодисменты в адрес компаний, благодаря которым это все произойдет. У форума есть организаторы, спонсоры и партнеры. Как уже было сказано, главным организатором форума является компания Archer, и это очень здорово. Давайте поблагодарим компанию за то, что у нас есть возможность общаться со спикерами мирового уровня. Спонсоры сегодняшнего мероприятия – компания PFSoft, компания Dinaris и объединение IT-компаний Днепро IT Community. Те люди, которые в зале относятся, чувствуют себя и гордятся, чувствуют себя хорошо, остальные им аплодируют. Я прошу, чтобы аплодисменты прозвучали, мы их записываем на видео, это очень важно. И, наконец, те компании, которые помогли с призовым фондом, который вы получите в конце, это компании SoftServe, DataArt и LuxSoft. Поприветствую. Партнеры космического форума. Вторая возможность получить подарки. Их будет 5. Это конкурс, это баттл самых социально активных слушателей наших сегодняшних докладов. В течение доклада, уже осталось, собственно, один спикер и вопросы. В течение всего этого времени вы можете написать пост, сделать фото, в общем, как угодно разместить информацию о форуме в любой из соцсетей. Главное сделать это с правильным хэштегом. Хэштег, который требуется нам, это UASpace. Он, если что, есть в каждом флайере, а я надеюсь, что флайера есть тоже у каждого слушателя сегодня. У нас есть судейская коллегия, которая отслеживает посты, отслеживает этот хэштег, и мы узнаем в конце, кто победил. А победил тот, у кого будет больше лайков к вашему 1 или 10, или не знаю, какому количеству постов. Мы хотим перейти к сути. Суть космического форума – это новые возможности. Это, возможно, ваши идеи, возможно, те идеи, которые удастся сгенерировать просто сегодня под влиянием харизмы и информации от одного из главных спикеров по теме космоса в мире, одного из пионеров новой космической индустрии. Друзья, Рик Tumlinson.
Oh, that's good. I will take this off. So,
друзья, я еще раз хочу сказать, у нас синхроперевод, по идее, на волне номер 3, он у всех работает. Если какие-то технические проблемы есть, дайте знать, пожалуйста, сразу, чтобы мы смогли это отрегулировать.
thank you. Technology is always a challenge, you know. So forgive me if I speak fast, and also forgive me if I use many examples from my own country and from my own history. It happens to be the one I know. So we're going to talk about several things today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the future. I'm going to talk at first about my company. But then I will also talk about what we call the revolution that's happening in space. I will talk a little bit about some thoughts about Ukraine. Then I will talk about what we're doing in the US as a part of this new revolution. And then I'm going to talk about the big picture, why this is important for all of us as human beings. You're wondering what that is on the screen. That's called lichen. Lichen is a living creature that is a combination of two animals, two plants that live together. Lichen does one thing. It lives. That's all it does. It just lives. Nothing more. It goes where things don't live, and it lives. I'll come back to that. This is my little girl. This is a couple of years ago. She's 5 years old, December 1st. This is an important picture. This is the very first time in her life that she touched a living flower. She was exploring. This is what humans do. This is why we're different than lichen. This is my NGO, my nonprofit, New Worlds. We just held a conference in Texas. I had 500 children and 300 professionals. It was wonderful. You can look us up. Hopefully we'll see you next year. Now, this is what my company does, and this is some crazy stuff here. This is just crazy. Think about it. Somebody's going to go into space, and they're going to mine an asteroid. Phew. Nuts. Exactly. Absolutely. It's totally nuts. So is this. Did you know when the first trains were created that some people thought that if you went faster than 50 kilometers an hour, your head would explode? Crazy. And this, think about this. This is insane. Insane. A human being can fly through the air. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. this, whoa. No, don't even talk to me about it. It's nuts. Somebody's going to fly to the moon and walk on the moon. Come on. And then there's this thing called the global brain. We call it the internet, the interweb. You can go on to a computer or on your phone and talk to anybody on the earth and share information with everybody. Do you realize you're already a cyber organism? You are already able to tap into all of the knowledge of the entire planet all at once, anytime you want. You have a question? Google. Siri. So it's not science fiction. This is not some sort of movie you're watching. It's happening right now. I have engineers working on this. This is about my company.
What will tomorrow look like? Our world is at its limits, and yet we all want more. And why not? Why shouldn't the future be better than today? But where will it come from? Simple. Our tiny planet sits in a vast sea of resources, including millions of asteroids, bathed in the sun's free energy 24 hours a day. The same rocks that could fall from our skies also contain everything we could ever need, both out there and down here. It's time someone seized the opportunity. Deep Space Industries. Deep Space is a new kind of company with a new kind of plan. We don't build rockets. We don't do astronomy. We are explorers and harvesters, makers and suppliers. As they say, timing is everything. And for space, right now is the time. In fact, some of the planet's most successful people are placing their bets on this new frontier. Meanwhile, NASA and others are planning new missions to the Moon and Mars, with new space facilities in free space joining the billions of dollars worth of communication satellites already in orbit. And as they reach beyond Earth's orbit, Deep Space Industries will be there with the fuel, air, and materials they will need to succeed and grow. DSI has assembled an international team of well-known experts and young innovators who are building on our space legacy and creating new technologies and approaches to open the frontier. We will develop and prove ourselves in 3 areas: exploring and prospecting for asteroids, harvesting and returning asteroid materials, and processing those materials for use in space and on Earth. Our early systems will be small and largely off-the-shelf components re-engineered for deep space. We will hitch rides on much larger missions with multiple ways to get into space, where our job really begins. With mission costs so low, we'll be able to attract commercial sponsors and build fleets of vehicles to assure our success. Early markets will be satellites in need of fuel, government outposts and commercial facilities, and missions between the Earth and the Moon. As we gain expertise and develop our systems, we will grow them as the frontier grows, so that when the time comes, DSI will be ready. We will be the gas station, the oasis for air and water, and the building supply center for the frontier. This is a long game, perhaps the longest ever. While we earn our way, the long goal is to create a better future for all of us through space resources. When the first asteroid is mined, deep space will be there. When the first space power plants come online, deep space will be there. When the first space colonies are built, deep space will be there. We can have it all. We can have an amazing future. The resources of space will lead to a new renaissance, both in space and back here on our precious Mother Earth. We are deep space. The frontier is coming, and our time is now.
Now, it's great to have a nice video. But we have to have real plans. Now, the first thing I want to point out is we're not bringing asteroid materials back to the Earth. That's not the point. In fact, nature does a very good job of bringing asteroids to the Earth. Hopefully not too often and not too big. We're also not necessarily going to be out there saving the world with Bruce Willis. But it would be cool. See, the point of what we're doing is about the idea of what we call in the space field ISRU, in situ resource utilization. In other words, it means living off the land. Wherever you go, you use what is there. I'll come back to this in a minute. What we want to be is the gas station. We want to be the oasis. We want to be the place where they stop to get their cheeseburgers on the way out. And here's the point. Because of the way the space programs of the past have operated, it's extremely expensive to do anything in space. If you went outside right now and you scooped up a pound, I don't know how many kilos that is, but if you scooped up a pound of soil, just dirt, and you carried it to where the space station is, it would be worth 10,000 US dollars. Just dirt. The further out you took it, the more you refined it, the more it would be worth. $800 million. The gold of space is water. So the first thing we're going after is water. Why water? Because you can drink it, you can breathe it, gives you the atmosphere. If you break it into hydrogen and oxygen and you light it, you have rocket propellant. Our Prospector X spacecraft is going to go up next year. It's only 10 by 20 by 30 centimeters, very small. The revolution that has occurred is partially enabled by what you have in your pocket, your cell phones. We can make things very, very small. Now we're going to have a new motor in this that one of our young engineers, 25-year-old engineer came up with. He said, why do you take the water and you break it into the hydrogen and the oxygen? Those are very dangerous and they blow up. He had this crazy idea. He said, what if we take the ice, we melt it into the water, we make it very hot, it turns into steam, and steam goes out the back, and the rocket goes that way. Pow! It's like, what? It's only 3,000-year-old technology, so that's what we're doing. We're making a steam motor. So this rocket, this spacecraft, will actually be using a steam motor to move in space. Now, here's the beauty of it. We're going to be mining ice from asteroids in a few years. What we're doing is we're starting to develop the technology to use that ice, so we're building the market for what it is we plan to do later. Now this is Prospector 1. This will be our first asteroid mission. The one you just saw will fly next year. Prospector 1 is going to fly in 2020, actually out to an asteroid. And if the technology works here today, there'll be another video hopefully showing up. But this is what Prospector 1 is going to do. It's going to land. And then we'll send out our harvesters. These are the different technologies. By the way, it's great to have this grand plan. We're going to go out and change the universe. But the fact is, between here and there, we have to pay the bills. We have to make money. In the US, there's this old cartoon, and it shows this guy, and he's writing on the board, and it says, you know, here's my business, here's da-da-da. And up here it says, conquer the universe. And in the middle it says, miracle happens here. Okay? That's too many business plans are written that way. For us, that's not workable. We have to actually sell things. So next year, we're not just doing one spacecraft. We're launching 4 spacecraft, and 3 of them are for commercial customers. And they all use the same motors. They're much bigger. So next year, we'll have a fleet of 4 different spacecraft. They're all different. They're doing different things for commercial customers. We got a $6 million contract to build these, so we can pay the bills and move ourselves forward, one step at a time. If you're thinking about starting a business, keep that one in mind. And by the way, I'm not going to tell you everything about the company. If you're an interested investor, we can talk later on. So now I'm going to change hats. I'm going to lose this one. Okay, so now I'm not talking from my company anymore, although now it's a little colder. What I'm going to talk about now is the future, and why the future is important. So we're going to go on a bit of a ride. We're going to talk about what's happening, how this new movement, what I call the new space revolution, or the frontier revolution started. And then we'll talk about, like I said, a little about Ukraine, and then we'll go off into the way of making this happen. But really, that's what it's all about, is this little blue planet. So we've been there before. We've been out into space before. These guys, by the way, had a very good mission. All right? They went in very few years from nothing to walking on the moon. Now, what's really interesting about this is the entire American space program in the 1960s was put together so that they could take this picture, the most expensive selfie ever shot. That was it. From day one until this shot, for all the billions of dollars they spent, it was only for one picture. And why was that? Because we needed to put a picture out so the world could see that the American system was better than the Soviet system. That was it. It was all, you might call it propaganda, whatever. But it was an amazing feat of technology. And the people that went are my heroes. I know Buzz Aldrin, I know these guys. These are my heroes. These are the giants. Whether they were in the East or the West, these are the giants. The people that ran this race on both sides. So they knew what they were doing. They knew why they were putting that footprint on the moon. They knew exactly why they were doing it. That's why everything fell apart after. Because the whole goal was to get to the moon and put their foot down. But then they were done. There was nothing else to follow. They had no plan. And so our space program in America started to just go in circles, round and round and round. And if we go to Mars, and we don't know why we're going, the same thing will happen. In fact, you know, sometimes there are people that say, did we ever go to the moon? They faked it, you know? You know why that people can say that? Do you know why people say that we faked going to the moon? It's really simple. Because we're not there now. How could you put so much money, so much effort, so much time into going to the moon and then not be there now? More than 30, 40 years, what is it, 45 years later? That's nuts. That's insane. That's crazier than the stuff I showed you before, that you would actually go to the moon and then give it up. That's why people don't think we were ever there. And if we don't have the right reason when we go into space the next time, if we go to Mars, if we get there, and we don't have the right reasons, we won't be able to stay. And 20 years after we go to Mars, the program will collapse, people will draw their attention to some other thing, and there'll be television shows going, and they'll probably be like beamed into your eyeballs or something, you know, because it'll be like 2050 or something, and there'll be a little show inside of your head, and it'll be, well, we have Fox News, which is crazy. But these people will be in there going, yeah, we never went to Mars. I can prove that the flag and everything is crazy. We never went. Because we won't be there, because we can't stay, because we had the wrong reasons. We have to break out of the cage of the way we think. We have to change the way we look at things. You know, we had a space program that's gone in circles, as I said, round and round. We've been lost in space in America for a long time. The space station was supposed to take us out into the universe, and it never did. It just went round and round, and now they're talking about bringing it down, which I will not let happen. In America, we had the space shuttle, and then we ended it. I was actually one of the organizations that helped try and stop it, because we knew that it was just political. It was just making money for rich donors. It wasn't really opening space. It was going in circles. This wasn't the end in our country. It was the beginning. We've been called out. Oh, but there was this interesting benefit to the Apollo program and the space shuttle. Because, see, there were a lot of little kids back in the 60s and the 70s and the early 80s, little children. I was one of them. That was probably me. That actually looks a lot like me. I had hair back then. sitting in front of television, watching the space race, watching and hearing about Gagarin and Glenn and the flights into space, watching it. Terrible things on the news. You'd be flipping. Oh my God, this is awful. But then you'd see this. It's like, there's something to live for, something exciting. And then, oh my God, Cold War, we're all going to die. And then there was this. People in space doing great things. And then there was this. Captain Kirk, Star Trek. Now, when you're a little kid and you're watching Star Trek and you're seeing Voyager and Galileo flying out into the solar system and you're seeing people on the moon, it blends together. And then there's this. We're all going to die. Cold War. And yet there's people in cars on the moon driving around. It's awesome. This is one future. This is the other future. Which one are you going to choose when you're a kid, a little child, a teenager? What do you want to believe in? I wanted to believe in this. And then I wanted to believe in this. Han Solo. Who gets the girl? That's the future I wanted. And by the way, I wasn't the only one. See, the big byproduct of the race to the moon, of the Cold War race to the moon in space, was that it inspired a generation to stay in school, to study, to learn, to let themselves be pushed around by the big guys, because then they became the bosses later. Now, in the 1970s, there was a very important book that was written. Gerard K. O'Neill. I recommend this book if you can get it. This is the Bible of everything you see with Elon and all of us, the high frontier. This book said for the first time, it was written in the 1970s, it said you don't have to be in the space program working for the government. It said you could be just a normal person and you can go into space. And Dr. O'Neill actually started to throw events in Princeton, in New Jersey. And he would say, come, tell us your crazy ideas. And we would go, and I was young, and we were all very young, and we would say, you know, maybe someday somebody will buy a ticket to go to space. Maybe someday a private company could go mine an asteroid. Maybe someday these different things will happen. And people, very serious people like Dr. Freeman Dyson and very important professors would go, yeah, okay, maybe you could do that. And so we went out and we started different things like the X Prize and International Space University or my company, or where we went out in the video that didn't work, where we took over the Russian space station, or I sold Dennis Tito the first ticket to go into space. Or I could start an asteroid company, or private companies could go to the moon. And by the way, he made it look just like us, in a colony that rotates for gravity, just like us. I helped work on this picture. He said, you know, we wanted big, brave people going into space. He said, no, no, I just want people in a family. I just want regular people to go. Now see, here's the interesting thing. This is one of the two choices you can have. You can have an approach to space like we did, where the government was in charge. And the government went out and did space for you. And you stayed home. And you watched it on TV. In fact, you know, there's three kinds of space programs. There is, I don't know how many of you know Carl Sagan. They're called the Saganites. I call them the Saganites. Saganites look into space and they say, billions and billions of stars. Isn't it grand? Look at the universe. Isn't it great? But don't touch them. These are people who like to send robots into space only, no people. They just want to look through the telescope. And that's great. That's cool for science. Then there's the other kind. They're called the von Braunians. Now, von Braun was the guy we brought over from Germany to help work on our space program. Now, he is like, when we will go into space, and you'll be very, very proud, and you'll sit there and you'll watch on the television, and we will spend your money for you, and we will go into, we will go into space, and you'll be very, very happy with what we do for you. That was how my NASA was started in the US. The government space program. You pay the taxes, and the government does it for you. Dr. O'Neill gave us a different kind of space program in his mind. We call it the O'Neillians. And the O'Neillians are people who believe that you go into space. You have your idea. You have your concept. And you take free enterprise. And you use the resources of space and you build a new civilization. I am an O'Neillian. My friends, who you're going to see in a minute, are O'Neillians. Now, if we had done it the wrong way when we went into the internet, this is what you would have. See, when we started with the internet, and IT, as you call it now, the government developed it for its own purposes and then gave it to the people. If we had done the internet the same way we did space, this is what you would have. You would have in my country, you know, we have the different space centers. We would have computer centers, and we would have computonauts. And you would have to be an elite, perfectly trained computonaut. And you would be able to put your punch card, because they'd probably still be using punch cards, into the computer and run your program, and then that would be on the news at night because it was such a big deal. But they didn't do that. They gave it to the people. And now everybody, everywhere is connected to be able to talk about everything, and your mother can send you pictures of kittens. We blew out of the cage there. We have to do it again in space. These are the new generation. These are some of my associates in the US who are working on different things. This guy, Elon Musk. You've probably heard of him. He was an Iron Man. You know, Tony Stark is modeled on Elon Musk. They're not like each other at all. He's not nearly that funny. He's a total Star Wars fan. Think about it. The rocket that he built is called the Falcon. Millennium Falcon. It's not an accident. He's a total geek. This guy, Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin, has a little book company. It's called Amazon. He built the entire company to make money so he could open space to you. When he was graduating school, he was the best in his class. He gave a speech about how to build cities in space. That's why he's making his money. Elon Musk in Mexico a few weeks ago said, my entire fortune, everything I'm doing is dedicated to opening the frontier. There's this guy, works for a little company called Microsoft. This rocket is going to be rolled out in a couple of months, I think. It's larger than an entire soccer field. He's a total nerd. This guy, you don't know much about him. His name is Bob Bigelow. He owns several casinos in Las Vegas and a hotel chain. These modules have been in space for 8 years as tests for building hotels. Oh, and then there's this guy, you never hear about him. Richard Branson. He's just a shy guy. He's flying into the year. Well, actually, early next year, he'll start selling. He's already sold a bunch of tickets. And then there are other people getting involved. There are a couple of these guys up there right now. They're doing it. It's happening. What's funny is they're copying the old way. They haven't started doing the new free enterprise approach. That'll come. And then these guys. I was just there last week. These people are exciting. They're doing it. They're stepping up. They want to go because they want to build a legacy. You've heard about the Taj Samudra, the biggest building on earth, things like that. They're doing it because they want to create a legacy once the oil runs out. And then there are all these little guys. Look, I repeat, I am not a billionaire, so don't hit me up for any money. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. I just happen to be able to work my way into this field and come up with a plan, and I've started building a company. Same thing with these people. These are smaller companies, but they're growing, they're real, they have staff, they're making things happen. Let 1,000 rockets fly. Oh, and then there's this. This is what I call space pornography. Oh, baby. Oh, yes. Oh. Yeah. That was great. Now, you know why that is important? This is Elon Musk's rocket. He flew that to the space station, and then he flew it back, and he landed it. And now he can fix it, fill it up again, and fly it again. And it starts to happen regularly. Imagine if every time you climbed in an airplane and flew to one place, from one place to another, all the pieces came off and they had to build a new airplane to fly back. There wouldn't be much air travel going on. That's amazing. That right there is probably one of the big turning points. So, all these rocket guys have started flying, and they're getting us up that first 100 miles. See, once you're up out of the gravity well of the Earth and you're actually in space, now you're out there where you can play. It's almost like in the internet world, you're called having a platform. If you have a platform, then you can do different apps on the platform. And this is the platform, space itself. We need to build an industrial infrastructure in space. So I'm going to have a few slides with some words on. I apologize. If I was in NASA, they'd be like little tiny words, but we have bigger words. This is what you need to open the frontier. There's only 3 things. 1, you need to be able to get there and back regularly, easily, like taking an airliner, taking a bus, taking a boat. It has to be able to go and come regularly and reliably and doesn't blow up too often. You need to be able to utilize the resources when you're there. In other words, once you get out there, you need to be able to use whatever you find to do whatever you want. And you need governments that are going to allow you to go and create the infrastructure that you have to be able to do it. And the deputy mayor who was here spoke earlier about that. Exactly right. You don't want to crush the new industry as it's starting. You want to give them the rules that they need, but you don't want to crush them. In the United States, we held a summit. I threw a summit last year in February. It was about as cold as this in Washington. It was actually a little colder. It was called the Pioneering Space National Summit. We got a bunch of different leaders together, 100 leaders from Lockheed Martin, Boeing, the right, the Republican side, the Hillary side, which didn't do so well last night. And everybody came together and they voted for 2 days, and we got them to agree on one statement. And this is very critical. This is about the US human spaceflight program. And I'm going somewhere with this. But that the idea would be settlement and an economy in space. They used to call that the S word in the US, settlement. It was like a dirty word. You couldn't talk about it. But now it's changed. And we've got new bills. There's a bill going through our US Congress right now that says that the goal of the US space program is to settle in space, for people to live there. That's dramatically different than the program we've had before. Remember what I said earlier about why. See, if you're going to settle, you do different things than if you're just going to visit. If you're just going to plant the flag. It's 2 different things. We also passed the Asteroid Act. This was just, you want to talk about crazy. I mean, the stuff I'm doing is crazy, but the fact that last year, the Congress and the White House, the Republicans and the Democrats in the US, all agreed, and this was passed. They made it a law that says, as far as the US goes, that our companies can go and work on space resources, that we can mine asteroids, and that we can use those in the marketplace. Now, that isn't the US trying to conquer space. That is simply the US actually paying attention to what's called the Outer Space Treaty. Every country in the Outer Space Treaty is called on to write its own rules for its own people so that they can operate within those rules, and then they're paying attention to and following the law in the United Nations Treaty. Now let's talk about a couple of myths. We'll talk about Ukraine just a little bit. And I do want to say something. It wasn't in my planned remarks. Well, I didn't really plan my remarks. I kind of make a lot of this up. But anyway, last night something very interesting happened in America. I was up all night watching that happen. I thought it was an interesting dream, and then I realized it was real this morning. I want you to understand that U.S. goes through, we are the craziest people on the planet. That's obviously clear. Somehow we keep landing on our feet. I don't know how that works. But I want you to understand that what's going to happen is going to be different than people expect to happen. I just believe it very much. I think that the person you saw in the campaign is different than the person you're going to get in January. And I've heard that from people that have met with him privately. I understand he has said some things that might be very concerning to the Ukraine. I want you to know, and forgive my pronunciation, but I feel differently personally. And I think this is right, Ya za Ukrainu. Yeah, I stand with you. I'm not very important, I'm a little guy. But I love this country, and I really see a lot here. I admire what you've done, I admire what you did, and I think you have a huge potential. And I want to see you capitalize on it the right way. So let's talk about that a little bit. There is this weird myth in space that if you're not Russia or the US or China or ESA, that you have to go do little things, that you somehow aren't qualified to be at the big table with the big boys and girls. You know, the big guys, they get to build these gigantic spaceships and do things like this. This is a big NASA thing. It's called the Space Launch System. Now, I was part of the opposition, so I called it the Senate Launch System. In other words, it was designed to bring money home. Bring home the bacon, as we say in the US. Go to Washington, do a big project, and bring the money home to us. That never happens anywhere else, right? The reality is everybody can fly. This is Blue Origin, this is Jeff Bezos, flies out in West Texas. Anybody can get involved. And one of the things that's really helped is the little CubeSats that I showed you before. This is a high school student in the US. This is a kid. He's flying this in space because of the capability that's in your cell phones. Now here's the old story. The Ukraine was a great employee of the Soviet Union. They worked for the Soviet Union. I like this next picture because it's interesting. There was no Soviet space program without the Ukraine. That's a Ukrainian aircraft, from what I understand, carrying the Buran. There was no Soviet space program without you. There was no Russian space program in the early days without you. You guys helped make it happen. None. Now, the way you need to think now is that you've had a great history. You've done a lot of stuff. You've created a great industry here, especially in this city. And the way you need to think about it is that you've got the skills and the people and the culture that you could be in the first wave. What do I mean by the first wave? The first wave is those people who are going out now. Companies like mine, companies like Moon Express, which just got the first permit to send a private vehicle to the moon. Places like the UAE, where they're sending a vehicle to Mars. Ukraine can be a part of that. You can do this yourselves. You can join in. You've got a government agency, and it's new. And there's a great thing about being new, because then you can change things. You can come up with new ways to do things. When I was in the UAE and I was talking to the people who were leading their new space program, which is only 2 years old, they said something very interesting to me. They said the goal of our space agency is not to do everything ourselves, but to enable the people of the UAE to do things themselves in space. If you can work with your own government and do it the right way, then you, in this audience, can do space. The government of Ukraine does not do IT, does not create new platforms, does not create new software. Why should they do it in space? They should help you guys do it. And the idea should be to support new ideas. I was just talking to this gentleman this afternoon. There he is. Great stuff. A new propulsion system, brand new. I mean, way brand new, super leading edge stuff. This would be science fiction in the old days, and I hope it works out. I hope it's proved. So I told you I was going to get that picture in there, man. It's time to disrupt. Oh, and here's something that doesn't even cost you anything. I'm going to, hopefully tomorrow, I guess, I'll be in Kiev, I hope, talking to some people, and I'm going to suggest this, and I would love your support. And again, the deputy mayor was, deputy mayor, correct? Yeah, she was talking about this earlier. Passing legislation in the Ukraine that says that you want the Ukraine to be the new home to space entrepreneurialism. See, that's what they did in Luxembourg. They passed a law, or they're passing a law right now, that's basically going to say that Luxembourg recognizes people who go out and do space resources and wants to provide an economic climate, tax breaks, things like that, incentives that will allow people to start their own space companies and come to Luxembourg. UAE is doing the same thing. They want people to come there. There are only 2 other countries in the US right now that have passed those laws. If the Ukraine jumped on it fairly quickly and did this fairly fast, you could be passing a law. It would be world news that the Ukraine has decided to join in and recognize space resource utilization. This isn't just about my company, but that other companies will be starting up and you will recognize them and give them a home here in the Ukraine. This is what you do, and it doesn't cost any money. Politicians love that, by the way. Doesn't cost any money. Let's just do it. I promise, if anybody is interested, I'll put you in touch with the people that are writing it, that wrote it in the US and that are writing it in the other countries, because this is something you can do. You can easily do it. And again, let's break out of this cage. We just got to break out of it. So it's time for change. Let's talk about the future. It's time for a new conversation. You see, in the old days, what we used to do, especially with resources, is we wrote a bunch of laws to make sure that we didn't hurt the earth. We had to protect it from industry. That was the old way of doing things. We have, and we do. I love this planet. I'm a tree hugger. That's what they call us in US. I used to be in college, I worked with a group called Greenpeace. You know, I was the guy who would, like, when I was a college student, I would go knock on doors and try and get money to save the whales. And the lady would try to close the door and I'd put my foot in and go, you don't care about the whales? Give us money. Now, I'm also from Texas, so I'm a tree hugger with a gun. It's my family. But see, what made sense in the old days to protect this planet, it doesn't make sense when you break out. Everything is reversed. See, we talk about limits. And yes, the climate is changing and we have to save this planet. I love this planet. I care about this planet. I worship this planet. But it's the opposite when we go into space. We need new rules that say, go out there. We were limited in the old days. The new conversation is different. The new conversation is, how do we make things happen? How do we accelerate the use of space? How do we get these things going? How do we save this planet by going out there? Because it's for everybody this time. Everybody gets to go. We'll come back to that. Free enterprise works, by the way. There are a lot of people that say, well, we should have socialist rules, and every penny you make in space, you have to split with Bangladesh or somebody like this. That's not how free enterprise works. The way it works is people keep the money they make, they invest it, and they spread it out, and people compete, and the price goes down, and everybody gets it. And this is one of the best examples I can think of. Cell phones. Everywhere. That wasn't some great socialist program to give everybody on the earth a cell phone. It was simply enterprise. People being allowed to work together based on their own ideas. It works. People are involved. The internet. Companies like Archer, other companies, are able to get in there and just do it and make it happen. That's what we have to do in space. People can get involved. And you can build your own spacecraft. You can do your own thing. The old paradigm isn't the same anymore, by the way. The old paradigm was that as civilization expanded, we cut down the trees, we destroyed the land, and we moved into it. Doesn't happen in space. There are no trees. In fact, in space, as we go, we take the trees with us. Survival and wealth creation in the past were based on the use of resources. In the space, it's the same thing, except the resources are unlimited. We have a new way of thinking as we go into space. It'll open up an entirely new way of thinking about society. Mark my words, write it down. 50 years from now, we will look at humanity in a very different way. The idea of self-expression, getting out there, being whoever you want, it's coming. We're going to go backwards a little bit as we go forward. That'll always happen, but we're going to move forward. Now, the old pilgrims, I don't know if you're familiar with pilgrims. Those are some of the people that came over to do the New World, where I used to live, or where I live now. And, you know, what was funny about these guys was they were entrepreneurs. They actually formed a corporation. It was called the Massachusetts Bay Company. And they had investors, and they came over, but they were a pretty hardcore religious group of people, right? They came for their own reason. I'm not going to judge that reason. Now, the new pilgrims that go into space, we might get a few of those. You might have countries, you might have a religion that says, screw this, we're all going out here. You know, here in the US, we have the Mormons. They do their thing. They're going to probably go out to the moon. Somebody's going to do this. Fine. Everybody can go. Or they might like this. This is what I'd like. This is the colony in space I want to go to. Diverse, inclusive, people living together, different kinds, sharing, growing. Oh, and then we're going to care about the environment. There is no more environmentally aware person than somebody sealed in a tin can, floating above the earth, rebreathing their own air, and drinking their own urine. You're pretty well going to be paying attention to the environment. And I am an eco-imperialist. I don't just like life, I want to see life expand where there is no life. We are engaged in an act of creation. Now let's talk real quickly about a couple of definitions, and then I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit and start getting into this. The settlement is not going up there and visiting the space station. It's going to live. You're a settler when you go out, and that's your home. That's where you want to be. Whoa, there's an edge. Like the Earth. It's a place that's your home. These guys weren't settlers in the Old West. We call them Lewis and Clark. Big story in my history books. These people are settlers. Oh, I want to make a point. I told you about living off the land, using the resources that you find. Now, keep in mind, in the U.S., the middle of the country, the Midwest, used to be called the Great Desert. And you were expected to die if you went out there. So in a way, this is a spaceship. So they sent the spaceship out, and it had these very fancy motors at the front. All right? Now what's really cool about those motors is the propellant. The fuel for those motors was the grass. They lived off the land. The very spacecraft was made out of things from the land. These people lived in a house made from the land. Happens to be great for protection from radiation as well. This is not a settlement. This is a settlement. So one of the ideas we're using in the US now is how the government can work with the private sector. If I go back here for a second. In the Old West, they would build a fort. And in that fort, they would have the government employees doing their thing. Those people would buy things from people around them. Now, if you cut to 100 years later, there's a little fort here in the middle. This is Toronto, and it's a museum now. Because that helped start an economy. The government buying things from the people. So this is how we start to do it in space. It's the government fort on the frontier. We buy stuff like rides from SpaceX. More than stuff from one contractor. And they work together. The technology from the government becomes the foundation for what is done with the private sector. And we grow. I'm going to skip through this a little bit. But we start to build the community, and that community grows. And then we can start to live off the land. And we build again, further and further out. And we build large structures. Because you can do anything you want as big as you want in space. And as we get better at it, we start to build new communities. This is the first Moon Express, it's going to the moon next year, first commercial spacecraft, a little bigger than this table. And then we start to get ahead of the government. The private sector starts to take over, and we start to grow. And the community grows, and we start to plant trees on the moon. And then we go to Mars, and that becomes the big leap forward. And we repeat the recipe. Of course, there's always this guy, like Elon Musk, who's just decided he's going to fly next year. He's going to send something next year. It'll probably be 2 years. He's going to get, he's kind of brave. He didn't read the handbook that said you have to wait for the government. He's just going. Screw it. I'm going, man. But of course, he needs a partnership, and he's got NASA working with him. So, here we get down to the question. Why do people go? Now, if you go to just orbit, just the edge, 100 miles up, these are the different things you can do. It's all about the business plan, right? You got to have a business plan. Return on investment. If you go to the moon, there's a little bit less. And this is what's really interesting. If you go all the way to Mars, it starts to reveal something. There is science, but when you get down to the economics, when you get down to making money, there's nothing. There's no profit. You can't really make a profit by going to the moon. These things are important, but it's not what it's all really about. We really have to come out of the airlock, and we have to admit the real reasons. We have to go because it's there. We go because we want to. We go because it's inspiring, because we feel called to go. We go because it's what we do as living creatures. We go because we must. And we go because it's why we exist. Actually, I have great music here, but obviously it's not working. I hear music up here. That's really what happens to me when I think about these things. See, we've got a bridge to the universe out there waiting for us. These are all things that can be built. Everything I'm going to show you right now is not science fiction. There's no beam me up Scotty here. All right, this is all real stuff. It's just a matter of scale. It's just a matter of decision. You know, the thing that keeps us out of space in a big way right now is not the gravity, it's not the radiation, it's not the technology, it's nothing but our decision. It's nothing but us having not decided to go. Everything here is real, is possible. Everything here we can make. These are colonies, 1 million people. We can do this. It's not science fiction. It's the same technology you use to build a skyscraper or a bridge, just put in space. We can make anything we want, as big as we want, as large as we want. We can go and see amazing things. We can do amazing things. All of us. Anybody who wants to get involved can step up. That's the big secret. That's the secret that hasn't been told. It's all about you. I don't know if you've ever been out at night and just looked up at the stars, just looked up at the sky, and had that feeling here. Something's going on. Why do I exist? Who am I? What's it all for? You see, humanity, I believe, has a special place in the universe. I believe we exist for a reason. I believe that the human species is the end result of billions of years of something that I can't explain. But here we are. The planet is 4 billion years old. And in that 4 billion years, do you know how many times we could have been wiped out? Think about it, the asteroid that hit the Earth and killed the dinosaurs. But for a few seconds, this way or that way, it wouldn't have hit. But for a few seconds, it would have hit in a different place and wiped out everything. How many times has that happened? The fact that we have a moon that keeps the core of the Earth molten so that there's a magnetic field around the Earth that protects us from radiation so that we can live here. Because without the moon being just that size and just in that place, we can't live on the Earth. This is not an accident, and if it is, it's a magnificent accident. You and I are here for a purpose, and I believe that there are 3, possibly 4 good reasons to be here. The first is that we exist so that the universe can know of itself. I want you to think about that for a second. Sentient beings. Think about that first slide I showed you, lichen, and the second one with my daughter. Sentient beings exist so the universe knows of itself. The universe without beings that can ask questions, without beings that can appreciate, without beings that can see beauty, without beings that can complain, without beings that can interact with the universe itself, is dead. If the universe had its own way right now, if it had a way, but doesn't have the consciousness to have a way, then it would be equal charged particles floating forever and ever and ever. But somehow it became more complex and organized itself. And that became a planet, it became a solar system. And that solar system had a planet, and that planet had a moon, and that moon created a field around the planet so that life could exist. And the asteroid missed us, and then we were algae, and then algae grew into something else. By the way, the atmosphere was deadly at that point, and the algae converted the atmosphere so that it could be something that could carry life. And then life occurred, and then that life began to come out of the ocean, and that life came out of the ocean, and that life started to move, and then that life had a brain and started to grow, and that growing occurred, and then again, more asteroids, and we survived. And then there was some guy running across and woman running across a field in Africa. And they started to ask questions, and they started to say, what is that up there? And what is this out here? And don't go beyond the edge of the fire because there are demons out there. But up here there must be gods. And I want to reach to that place. And so I want to reach and I want to live. And then some one of these people in this tribe on Africa decided to go beyond that darkness and step into a new place, and a new civilization started to grow. And those civilizations started to plant seeds and grow things, and they started to grow into entire new cultures, and these cultures started to grow. And these people started to work together, and yes, they fought with each other, but then they get to a point in time where they've created technologies using those same primitive feelings of I must protect myself and I have to take from you, etc. And those tools that they built, those missiles, those rockets, those computers, those very same technologies that they were about to destroy each other with in the middle of the Cold War, where I can press a button and I can launch a rocket and it will come down and kill you. That same technology has allowed us to reach for the stars. The same brains that came up with those systems, your brains, your minds, can be applied to reaching for the stars. We are here for a reason. We are the seed carriers of life. What if we are the only planet that has intelligent life? I know, billions and billions of stars. It must be everywhere, but we can't find it. And in Texas, we play poker, and if you look at poker, the one thing you can bet on is the cards you can see. The only cards I can see are the people on this planet, are you and me, and the trees and birds and flowers and fish and whales and animals that are here. I care about this planet, and I want to spread the seeds of this planet out there. For me, this is what it's all about. The future is about the expansion of life. The future is about reaching out into the universe. It's about spreading life out into the galaxy, because I believe that this is a precious world. For me, you don't have to. This is just my stand. I take the stand right now that we exist in the most important moment in the history of humanity and possibly life itself. Right now. In the last 50 to 100 years, we could have completely destroyed ourselves, and we may yet. But we have the chance to make it. This time we get to go together, by the way. We're not taking it from anybody. This time we get to give it to everybody. This is my goal, to carry the light of life to worlds now dark, the seeds of life to worlds now dead, and the eyes, hands, and minds of humanity to places as yet unseen, untouched, and unexplored. I challenge you to join me in this. I challenge you to take whatever you've been dealt in this amazing country called the Ukraine. You haven't been dealt the best hand, but you've got it in your own control, that's for sure. You've taken it on. You can take on the future. You can make it what you want to make it. I don't know who I'm speaking to in this audience, but one of you, just one of you, may be the one who walks out of here and now does something different. And if you find two, now you've got a movement. You can make a change. You can create the future. The past is nothing. The past is dead. There is the present and tomorrow. Those are two things you have control of. Take control of it. Make the future better than the past. Step up. Don't ever let anybody tell you you can't. You can, and you have a role to play. The future is yours. Thank you.
Друзья, наступает время вопросов и ответов. Секундочку. Мы видим, да, первая рука, вы будете первым. Давайте на вас оттестируем наш микрофон и вообще схему. У нас единственная просьба. Мы, я думаю, успеем выслушать всех. Ну, если вопросы будут по теме и ответы будут четкими. Надо их задавать в микрофон, потому что синхронный перевод реагирует только на те слова, которые сказаны в микрофон, и если вы будете говорить не в микрофон, мы потеряем, ну, те, кто не понимают язык как следует, потеряют смысл. Поэтому у нас просьба, поднимайте руки, у нас есть первый вопрос, у нас, внимание, второй вопрос, третий, четвертый, и мы успеем. В порядке живой очереди, прошу вас, давайте откроем, перед тем, как вы зададите свой вопрос, пожалуйста, девушки, вот сюда микрофон, во втором ряду. А где-то микрофон уже там гуляет, должен быть, по крайней мере. Да, мне так кажется. Ага. Я хочу напомнить, что помимо вопросов, которые будут награждены, 3 лучших вопроса, которые выберет Рик, получат призы. У нас по-прежнему продолжается конкурс самых социально активных людей. Говорят, что с нашим хэштегом UASpace много чего появилось в сети. Надеемся, еще появится. У нас есть где-то полчаса, может быть, 40 минут на ответ на вопросы, после чего будут подведены итоги. Ready? Okay.
Я попробую на английском.
Если вы говорите на английском, это тоже можно, просто синхронист переводит на русский. В общем, на любом языке можно задавать вопрос, только в микрофон.
Okay, Rick. First of all, thanks for coming. And my question is, how are you protect your intelligence?
Oh.
Okay. Yes,
You're speaking English. He's giving me
yes,
Russian
yes,
in the headset.
Okay.
Ukrainian.
Okay,
yeah.
I try again.
Okay, try again.
First of all, thanks for coming. My question is, how are you protect your intellectual rights in USA? And maybe you can give us some practical advice about this, and that's all. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, IP is what we call it, intellectual property.
Yes, yes.
The U.S. has a long-standing history of very strong property rights, or property. By the way, property means ideas. It doesn't just mean this kind of property. It means the idea that I came up with this and you can't copy it. It really gets into your court system. It gets into drawing up strong laws. You might take a look at the U.S. laws. There are other countries that have great law. I think the Netherlands has, some of the other countries have great laws. But I think IP is critical because if you come up with an idea and you put all the time into coming up with that idea, you don't want somebody to just go copy it. Now, we're having some very interesting issues with China in that regard. They don't seem to care. It's like, oh, look, I can make this, let's go with it. But on the other hand, I think it's very important. If you're going to have a free enterprise economy, you have to appreciate everybody's enterprise and reward them accordingly.
Hello?
Секундочку. Перевод закончился, пожалуйста.
Okay.
Hi, and thanks for coming. I have
You are
a question about education.
Yes, ma'am.
We are stepping in the space era, and how do you think will education of children in schools, will it change after we have stepped in the space era? Will it be more tech, more IT education, or it will be like right now we're learning languages, we're learning tech, everything, and chemistry, biology, or it will be more focused on technology or on space technology?
Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit longer answer on this. In the U.S., we have a program now that I mentioned it to you and you didn't know what it was. We call it STEAM. S-T-E-A-M. Science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And this is a very big deal in U.S. education system now. You can talk to any teacher, any educator, and talk about STEAM education. The reason at my conference last weekend on Friday, we had apparently 501, I don't know who the one was, he just got in there, but we had 500 high school students designing colonies in space. And they weren't all engineers. Some of these guys, some of these people were like artists, or some of them were, there was a fashion designer, things like that. What you have to do is really zero in on what sings to the individual student, and then push them and pull them and offer them the chance to express themselves in terms of space. The beauty about building a city in space is like a city here. It incorporates every skill, and you need to bring that home. I think that here in Dnipro, you know, you could, I don't know, again, what your city council is like. I don't know what the funding is like. I'm sure it sucks, because it sucks for us in many of our cities as well. You know, and I don't mean the city council sucks, I mean the funding. Sorry, I would never badmouth a politician. But I think that what happens is you've got to take personal initiatives. You've got to get the parents of the teachers involved and get them saying, I want my child to have a chance for a new future. The parents of students are the most powerful people on earth because they care about their kids more than anything else. If you get them involved, that's great. So STEAM education. I'd be glad to put you in touch with our education person. She's amazing, and she can help you with the curriculum, things like that. Also, mentoring. Here in Dnipro, you have a lot of people that have been working in the space field. You know, bring them into the schools. Have them judge contests. Kids love contests, things like that. And you said something interesting. You said, will this drive the students? It's the other way around. The students will drive the future, all right? The students are the ones who are going to make this happen. The kids in class. One of the different things, by the way, that we do in our contest, and it was a contest this week, they got big trophies, you know, things like that for building the best city, was we didn't say we want you to study space because space is cool. We want you to, what we said to them was, we want you to design your house on Mars. That makes it very personal. That's the difference between, I'll use a sports thing, that's the difference between telling a kid, study a book on basketball, and you're going to be a basketball player. Believe me, this one gets a lot more attention. So that's the kind of thing I would do. There's so many different things you could do to inspire kids. Look at the different, Canada is very, very good at using space to educate their kids. They're really good about it. I would study what they do. You know, just go out there and steal from other people. Get lots of good ideas from these people. There's a lot of good stuff out there.
Добрый день.
Верните мне голос, спасибо. Подождите, мы помним о вас. У нас здесь вопрос на этом фланге. Прошу вас.
Добрый день, меня зовут Владимир Стаценко. Прежде всего хочу вас поблагодарить за ваш великолепный доклад. И очень рад был видеть фотографию одного комплекса, в котором мне пришлось в молодости принимать участие в его испытаниях. Вот. Несколько лет назад в этом же зале, на этом же экране была презентация фонда «Онлайн». И фондаторы этого фонда показывали в том числе некоторые идеи, которые связаны были с освоением космоса. И очень приятно видеть на этой сцене живого представителя, который реализует эти идеи Роберта Ханлайна. И у меня вопрос такой, кто ваш любимый писатель, кто ваш любимый ученый и кто ваш любимый кинорежиссер?
Yeah, that was probably Art Dula, who was with the Heinlein Trust. He's a good friend. And, oh man, Robert Heinlein. Yeah. In English, there are three rock stars of science fiction. Robert Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, and Arthur C. Clarke. And I was lucky enough in my life to actually have met all three of them. I insulted Heinlein, and he yelled at me, but then he apologized. Isaac Asimov, I shouldn't say this, but I have to tell you, he pinched my wife's bottom. Very strange. Very strange. It happened. It was funny. It's like, oh. Anyway, and Arthur C. Clarke, I was able to work with the International Space University, and we called him Uncle Arthur. And I got to go down to Sri Lanka and be with him many times. I have a picture from the movie 2001 on my wall that he signed on. And he beat me at table tennis very badly a few times. But look, they are the inspiration. So is Hollywood, by the way. You know, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like almost all the biggest, best movies are space movies. I just saw the commercial. There's another one coming out with the girl from Mockingjay, whatever that's called. I can't remember the lady's name, but some very famous actors. It's coming out this fall. I thought you were over here. Jennifer Lawrence. It's coming out in like 2 weeks. Big movie. There's, space is a great inspiration. I like to say that space is a blank canvas on which you can paint any future you wish. Science fiction authors and writers are the inspiration as well. I read that stuff. That's the reason I believed I could do this. I was a sick little asthmatic kid, and I was reading science fiction, and I was like, oh, that's me. I'm going to go, you know? So yeah, it's amazing.
Аплодисменты. Мы продолжаем. Я прошу, следующая серия вопросов, у нас 4-й вопрос есть здесь. Кто будет дальше, чтобы мы знали заранее? У нас впереди много интересного. Здесь 3-й ряд, потом, пожалуйста, вы и вот девушка. Пока перейдем к следующей серии чуть позже.
Виктория, пенсионерка с города Каменского, 60 километров отсюда. В моем городе выпускали топливо для ракет.
Еще раз сначала, чтобы был перевод, прошу вас.
Виктория, пенсионерка с Каменского города, 60 километров отсюда. В моем городе выпускали топливо для ракет до 1991 года. Утилизация радиоактивных отходов – моя тема для экологических программ. Я знакома с директором директором по экологии города Каменского, бывший Днепродзержинск. Мы там тоже будем в космосе закапывать радиоактивные отходы, и на этом все.
Давайте актуализируем вопрос. В чем вопрос?
Утилизация радиоактивных отходов.
Got it. I know what you're saying. Yes, got it. I understand. So, 2 things. One you're going to probably like, one you're probably going to not like in terms of space. I don't think we're going to be sending radioactive residue into space because it can fall down, and that's not good. However, personally, I think that probably the best thing is to put it in what they call the subduction zones under the ocean, where the crust goes down in the Pacific and it goes down into the Earth's mantle. That's just my own personal thing. A little safer, let it go down. However, I do believe we are going to need nuclear power in space. I think it is very important in places like the moon, where you have, 2 weeks in darkness, 2 weeks in light, to have nuclear power sources. So I do believe nuclear power does have a future in space. I think it'll be very important. But again, waste management, I'm not sure about that. I don't think so. So I hope that helps. But, so that's a new industry as opposed to taking care of the problems of the old.
Спасибо. Давайте, я спущусь тоже в зал, мы будем, может быть, ускорять и с двумя микрофонами работать. По-моему, ваш был вопрос стоп, извините, у нас уже почему-то микрофон здесь, будет следующий ваш.
Okay, so thank you for coming again. My question is, you run your company on a side product, selling services for other companies, commercial. And you showed that economical part on space exploration diminishes as you go further. Question is how you make your business and your company sustainable in near and foreseeable future.
Okay. I kept looking at you. I was thinking Bono was in the audience. So in the U.S., it was very interesting. In the U.S., they had a thing called the gold rush when they discovered gold in California. And everybody went to California to go dig the gold because they were all going to be billionaires. Well, there was this one guy who was out there, and he decided that, maybe they need pants. And he took the material from the tents, and he made pants, and his name was Levi Strauss. All right? Levi. That's where I decided to get involved. I actually have another company in the U.S. that's doing, was supposed to be doing spacesuits. It's called Orbital Outfitters. And we realized that nobody was flying fast enough. We started the company in 2006. We showed a full spacesuit, safe, emergency suit. Like when you're on the airplane and the little thing comes down, this would be the emergency suit that would get you down. But nobody was ready to fly. They still haven't flown the tourism yet. So we had to change, and this is a very important point, we had to pivot the company. So pivot means that, in business, means that your company is planned to go this way, and you realize that the market that you were thinking about in your original plan is not the best market. So you pivot over here, and that's how you survive. That's a very important concept, and so we've had to do that. But the main point here is you have to find a small niche, a small place to go. Now, maybe we can't all be as brilliant as this gentleman and start a program like his, but you might find an app or a small thing you can do that feeds into his platform and allows you to then capitalize on it. There are a million things. Think about it. Shovels on the moon and Mars. Nobody's built that. Nobody knows how exactly the right way to make that work. The last point I want to make on this is next year we're going to be putting out a thing called the Space Development Matrix on the internet, and it's going to have places for people with new ideas. And you'll come in and you'll say, I've got a new idea for this, and you'll put down, my name is, whatever, and I live in this town, and I'm studying this, and here's my project, and I have this experience, and I need this help. Who can work with me? And then somebody else on the other side of the world will do the same thing, and we can start putting people together. And by the way, I should mention this. I told you I was going to ask about this. I'm looking for programmers and coders that might be able to help us in the NGO to do this, because we need some coders, and I hear the Ukraine has a couple. By the way, you guys are famous for that, both good and bad, so I just want to let you know. Very famous. Go ahead.
Так, у нас очень много рук, мы обещаем, что все зададут вопросы, давайте не спешить. У нас ближайшие 3 позиции точно заняты, мы потом новую очередь организуем. Я хочу, кстати, в свою очередь сказать, что у нас есть еще один мотивирующий фактор, он оказался, что вы знаете, что после окончания открытой встречи пройдет круглый стол, куда была отдельная запись, и часть людей зарегистрирована, часть нет. Помимо того, что 3 подарка за лучший вопрос точно будут разыграны, эти же люди, обладатели подарков за 3 лучших вопроса, смогут присоединиться к круглому столу, который пройдет здесь, в гораздо более теплой комнате. Поэтому, пожалуйста, готовьте ваши вопросы.
Рик, меня зовут Алекс, и мой вопрос будет касаться тоже бизнеса, я буду на русском. Мой вопрос такой, как я понимаю, ваш проект сейчас все-таки стартап. Раз он стартап, значит он нуждается в инвестициях. Обычно сейчас даже на простые вещи, такие как Fidget Cube, все ищут деньги на Кикстартере, например, и собирают миллионы. Но раз вы не воспользовались Кикстартером, а оказались на Украине, возможно, у вас какая-то есть стратегия по развитию этого проекта. И давайте поговорим о таких вещах, как деньги, как вы видите привлечение. Возможно, у вас уже есть какая-то своя платформа для этого, если мы общаемся в IT-сфере. Возможно, у вас есть какая-то идея или что-то еще, о чем я не догадываюсь. Спасибо.
Sure. Kickstarter is one way to go. There's a very careful strategy you have to do with Kickstarter. There's this myth that you could go do Kickstarter and just, here's my idea and everybody will give you money. Most of the people on Kickstarter already have some money. So that when they do the Kickstarter, they already have, if they're raising $1 million, they already have somebody who said, I'll give you 100,000, and then they have to put that in. So it's a little complicated. We thought about Kickstarter, we decided not to go that way. What's really interesting, and I'll tell you a little secret here, is when sometimes I do my presentation and I put the slide that says, I will talk to you later. What happens is sometimes people come up to me afterwards and say they want to invest. It's that kind of thing. You just have to get out and make yourself findable. All right? Now, I'm not necessarily doing this for my company on this trip, but what happens is so many times people think that, you should go through the front door to find the investors. All right? But the people that have the money have 25 people with guns saying, don't come bother my boss. So what you have to do is get the word out so they can find you. And we found that works very well. Have a good, you saw we have the video. There was actually a second video that didn't work, but we make sure that the world hears about us. And so we capture, when I talk to my guys, I say, eyes, heart, mind, wallet. You capture the big picture. You catch somebody by the heart. Then their brain kicks in and says, well, no, what about that? Is that really a good idea? Does that really make sense? And then the wallet says, hey, does that make money? If you could do that, eyes, heart, mind, wallet. That's how you get people involved. You have to have a good idea. You have to be able to show you're going to have a return on investment in a period that fits whoever it is that's investing. For us, we're going after more like what you would call family funds, long-term investment. People who can look beyond 2 years, 3 years. However, we have an expected revenue in our company probably next year of about 15 million. Commercial. That's not even, there's an article in, do you know Wired magazine? Okay, there's an article in Wired magazine that says how to make money from mining asteroids without ever mining. It's about us. All right. We're figuring out ways to make money now. But I can talk to you afterwards, give you any ideas, if you need any questions or anything. You probably know more than I do. So it's really a matter of having a solid business plan, having excellent people on your team, and creating credibility that gets you from here to there without that miracle in the middle.
Ну, в общем, вполне возможно, что добывать деньги из спонсоров труднее, чем добывать полезные ископаемые из астероидов, так что рискуйте.
In English. Hello, my name is Sergey. I have such a question. Does Uncle Sam support or interrupt the activity of DSI or Space Frontier Foundation?
Okay. Give me that one more time, a little more. I'm trying to...
Repeat the whole question?
Yeah, what was... Space Frontier Foundation and Deep Space Industries, but I didn't get the middle part.
I have such a question. Does Uncle Sam support or interrupts the activity of your child?
Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam.
That guy.
That guy.
Yes, okay.
Does Uncle Sam support or interrupt the activity of your child, such as DSI or Space Frontier Foundation?
First of all, they're two very different things. I want to be very, very clear, okay? So, does Uncle Sam interrupt? Well, Space Frontier, I'll take two separate. Space Frontiers Foundation interrupted Uncle Sam. Okay?
And what was the reaction?
They didn't like it very much. The original Space Frontier Foundation, which was started in 1988, So that organization is now older. We actually fought battles with U.S. government. For example, we were in the battle against the space station in the early days, because in 1986, President Ronald Reagan said that the space station was going to be finished in 1992, and it would only cost $8 billion. Now, those of you who are involved with space or anything know that what actually happened was they never finished it. It's still not finished. And they spent over $100 billion. So in 1992, this is before it happened, our organization said, we don't think that's true. But we also don't think the government should build buildings. So we fought that space station in Congress to one vote. So we almost killed the space station by one vote, or as my friend who is one of the heads of NASA says, they saved it by one vote. So we did things like that. We were actually the ones who tried to stop the shuttle program. It's a beautiful machine. It's a magnificent machine, but it didn't do what it was supposed to do. When the space shuttle, the American space shuttle, was sold to Congress in the 1970s, I should have mentioned this in my talk, I forgot. In the 1970s, while we were watching Star Wars and all of these great things, the US government told us that the space shuttle was going to fly, and it was going to fly 50 times a year. All right, and it was only going to be, I guess, kilos, $20 a kilo to go to space. That was what they told us in the government. It didn't happen. So yeah, we've had some battles. However, I just want to be clear, now, because, and I don't want to say it, there was a magazine article that showed us in Space News. It said, what do you do after you win the revolution? We actually did kind of, we haven't won, it's not over, but it's happening. And so now what's happening is we're working with the government. And we have meetings with them all the time. And they've changed. It took a long time. But it's changed, and now the government works with us. Deep Space Industries, my other side, we work with the government all the time. We have several NASA contracts. We're actually based, my office, our shop in Silicon Valley is on a NASA facility. So we work with the government. And the fact that they passed that law, incredible. So times change. You know, real quick, one of the things that we had to teach our friends in the government was that a strategy for when times change is not to do this, or as we would say in America, it's not to circle the wagons tighter. You know, in the movies, like the Indians, they go around so they circle the wagons and they shoot at them, right? We said, don't do that. Open up, get involved. And they have, and it's changing. The enemy we have right now are people who have no imaginations, and most of them work in Congress.